I have in my hands an original Robert Bateman, which is not for sale. But here is the original Robert Bateman.
I'm not for sale either.
He's not, well, you are for sale in the kind of way, Robert, are you not?
No, not in my opinion.
And we're going to look at the world of Robert Bateman. No, I don't mean you're for sale intellectually, but your products, your paintings, your prints are for sale. We're going to look at this little collection from the world of Robert Bateman, and Robert is going to tell us what he sees.
Well, we just saw some wolves, the Clear Night Wolf painting. Here's mergansers in hiding. Tiger piece. These are at the front of the book, the World of Robert Bateman. Tiger kind of emerging from the big grass. Giraffes, and galloping herd.
An eagle?
And that's a fish eagle. That's the African version of the bald eagle. It's more handsome and more courageous, I'm sorry to say. Blacksmith plover. Those are secretary birds. We got a bunch of African stuff here. The book has got a lot of African in it, but it's just really I guess about a quarter of it. And a tremendous amount of stuff from Ontario. Those are mute swans. That was a scene from Sweden, as a matter of fact. And in the Antarctic, the king penguin.
They're rather nice to look at, aren't they?
Not too bad, I hope so. That's a raven in Yellowstone Park with another raven in the background. Got lots of ravens around. There we have South Moresby Island, some killer whales or orca swimming by down near the south tip.
And all from the world of Robert Bateman. Robert, you've recently moved out to the coast to live here, right?
That's right.
Is this going to be your permanent home on the Gulf Islands?
Permanent home.
What made you take that move? Because you're known as a Toronto artist. Basically, you're from Toronto, right, Robert?
That's right. I always wanted to live on the ocean. I always wanted to be able to get into the water without getting into a car first. And I didn't want the water to freeze over as it does in Ontario for half the year. So that's why I moved out.
When did, a silly kind of question, but I'm not very good with artists. When did you first, I made my silly little joke at the top that you wrote oils, you got some oils, and you put it on masonite. Was I right or was I
It's
wrong?
acrylics, not oils. That's right.
It's acrylics on masonite.
That's right.
When did you develop your talent for art?
Well, I started to get serious when I was 12. I think all little kids like art and nature, and most normal human beings grow up around the age of 12 and give up an interest in art and nature, and I just never grew up.
And who was it that kept it going? Because lots of people have got kids who show an incredible interest in art, but it gets lost along the way. I wonder how many good artists we lose because of the lack of the proper guidance and encouragement. So where did your guidance and encouragement come from?
I don't quite agree with that. I think it's inside the person. And going to art schools and taking courses and all that, or having people, when I'm signing my book, now people quite often are saying, write, keep up the painting, as somebody who's losing interest. I don't really like to write that. If the person paints because they can't stop. That's the reason why they paint.
Are you saying therefore that the individual with drive will achieve that career, whatever that career is,
right,
if there's enough drive there?
Right. It's inside the person, and forget about the outside.
You're saying that because I wanted to talk and argue and yatta as a school kid, that I guided myself automatically into the business of talking for a living.
That's right, and you found a career doing it.
Now, you certainly have found a magnificent career, have you not? And you know how grossly pecuniary I am. I see some complaints in Maclean's magazine this week that you prepare and sell more prints than other paintings, than other painters do of prints, which accounts for your incredible income. How do you plead that?
Oh, well, first of all, I don't want to admit to an incredible income, but second of all, I don't think there's any reason to make prints of your work if you don't have, unless you have too much demand for the originals. And Mill Pond Press, that does my prints, chased me for 2 years, way back in, I guess it was 75 to 77. And finally I said, well, okay, I'll try doing it, because Roger Torrey Peterson and Sir Peter Scott were with them too. And so they started doing it, and for some reason or other, people started buying them, and it's just gone onward and upward from there. But I don't consider it, there's nothing to do with my art, but it does disseminate my art to California and Texas and New York and Milwaukee and all parts of Canada, so people can see it.
Funny you should mention Peter Scott, because I think he was the only artist I knew I'd heard of as a young man who really impressed me. Is he still on the go?
He's still on the go. He had a heart attack about a year ago, but he's
He's the
He's
guy
still-
who did the Antarctic and the ducks and the...
Yeah, he has a wonderful waterfowl place in Gloucestershire, and Charles, Prince Charles, is the president of it, and I think he's the most exciting human being in the 20th century, one of them anyway.
The last time you were here, you had just completed a gift for Prince Charles, did you not?
That's right, and you said, I understand you did a painting for Ed and Lil, and, and why didn't I bring it? And we have it this time. It's the Loon family, Northern Reflections.
And where does that particular loon family come from?
Well, the loons come from a whole bunch of different loons. That painting is in Killarney Park in Northern Ontario. It's a bit of Canadian Shield.
Loons are one of the wildlife birds that are everywhere across the face of the earth, are they not?
Yes, except in Ontario they're getting wiped out by acid rain that's coming up from the Ohio Valley.
Really getting wiped out by acid?
Well, the lakes are dying, as you probably know, and it's because of the acid emissions, which Mr. Reagan doesn't seem to want to clean up, and if there are no fish in the lakes, there aren't going to be any loons.
Well, we Canadians haven't been so very clever at cleaning up our mess either, have we?
we shaft New England and Quebec with the stuff in Ontario.
And some of us have the gall to want jobs from logging and pot of the Moresbys while laying aside 450 square miles for the park, and you can't really blame us, can you?
No, but I think that the policies of the government and some of the logging companies are almost guaranteeing no jobs in the future, because we seem to want to get it all out now immediately, like tomorrow or yesterday. And I think if we logged more efficiently and more carefully, and have been doing it and replanting, we'd have a lot more jobs in the future. I'm as much in favor of jobs as you are, but not the way we're going about it.
Well, of course, the fact of the matter is that British Columbia, whether those in the East like to admit it or not, is in a very dangerous recession. And to wipe out existing jobs is kind of heartless to the families who, after all these problems we've had in BC, 20, 30,000 of them go straight on to UIC, and from UIC to welfare, and no further jobs. And if it's a choice between reasonable multi-use of the parks and jobs, we, the ordinary people, will go for the jobs. And I'm sure you will too.
Oh, exactly. I'm all in favor of multi-use. But
see, what I object to is this hysteria in the East. When I see ads in the Globe and Mail that cost $26,000 by people who've never even been to the Moresbys, far less seen them, or know anything about the intricate economy, forest economy of British Columbia. I mean, I'll agree with you right off the bat. Logging practices in the past, in many cases, have been execrable. They're much better now. People must still eat. No logs down here, no jobs.
But that doesn't mean we go to the bottom of the barrel in every bit of our environment.
It means we use some intelligent planning and foresight.
Okay.
You're going to talk to Robert Bateman. Well, we're not going to disagree on that, because I think there is a room for both properly handled.
Right.
You're going to talk to Robert Bateman. You know more about art and painting than I do. And are you going to be anywhere to autograph your book?
I think so. I don't have the list, do you?
Tell me after the break.
Okay, maybe somebody can get the list too.
Robert Bateman, the author. When do you move into your Gulf Islands home?
Well, we moved in August. They finished the kitchen and the bedrooms, and Birgit and the kids are living there now while I'm on this book tour, but they won't be finished building it till about Christmas.
It says here that the painter, that's you, has contributed about $1 million to conservation.
I guess so. I'm one of the qualities I have, I can't count. I can't count money. I could never count students when I was a teacher, and that's what they tell me. That would be through donations of originals and prints for fundraising causes.
You taught in Nigeria at one time, though, did you not?
That's right. I taught Biafrans before they became Biafra.
And that was where you developed your interest in the jungle paintings.
In Africa, that's right.
In Africa.
That's right.
But it's not your concentration. I've got some calls here for you. Go ahead to Robert Bateman, please.
Yes, Mr. Bateman. I really enjoy your work. Question is, do you ever, or have you ever done any paintings of tropical birds, such as macaws and cockatoos and that sort of thing?
No, that's an interesting question. I have visited a lot of parts of the world that I really enjoy. I've scuba dived on the Great Barrier Reef, and I visited the tropical jungles, and somehow it's not Andrew Wyethie enough for me down there. It's I like things that have a little more subtle colors to them, and I can't see me painting, say, a macaw in hibiscus with the kind of taste I have at the moment. I sort of like the more, I guess, grays and browns and greens and those kind of colors. Although I might come to it someday. Maybe in my old age I'll need a little more hit from color, and I might come to it someday.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Mr. Bateman.
Yep.
This is, I'm from the Queen Charlotte Islands, and I've followed your work for years there. I've just never had enough money to collect some of your prints. But if you ever do get a chance, I wish you'd come up to the Queen Charlotte Islands and draw our peregrine falcons. And as you said on your show, I hear you're a diver, you should come up and see the abalone and the scallops.
Wonderful. I have been there, as a matter of fact. I went with a group called Echo Summers down to the south tip of South Moresby and had a wonderful visit to Anthony Island and the Ninstons, the Haida totem poles. It's the United Nations Heritage Site, as I'm sure you know. And there is a painting of it in the book, which I call Spirits of the Forest. It's an absolutely heavenly part of the world, and I'd love to come back and do the peregrines.
Well, I'm glad that you're out on the West Coast, and good luck on your future work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Jack Webster and Robert Bateman.
Yep.
Welcome to BC.
Thank you.
I enjoy your work very much. Do you know a wildlife painter by the name of Clarence Telenius in Winnipeg?
Yes, I do.
You do know him.
Yep, Superman. Really a wonderful human being, and I really enjoy his work, too.
I understand that he is. Yes. Can you tell me what his, where his art show is in, or his exhibits are in Winnipeg?
No, I'm afraid I don't know that. I think he has some permanent displays with some company there, but I don't know the answer to that.
Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Bateman. I personally have just recently become aware of what the new director of our Vancouver Art Gallery is attempting to do, and I'm quite impressed, especially with determined to bring in the native artwork of BC, which in past times has been relatively ignored. Are you familiar with the art gallery, and do you have an opinion on it?
Yes, I am familiar with the art gallery. I used to visit it before they moved, and I really like the new facilities a lot. I enjoy the shows there. Now, I'm not sure of the new policy that you're mentioning, but I do feel that the Haida art, for example, is among the finest art done by anybody, by any culture in the entire planet, including Picasso or Da Vinci or anyone else. And so if that's getting more prominence in an art gallery as opposed to an anthropology museum, I'm all in favor of it.
It should do, shouldn't it? Go ahead from Victoria.
Yes. I wish you wouldn't keep calling him an artist, because he isn't an artist. He's an illustrator. And he's flooding the market with these expensive reproductions. They're not prints. The gullible public buy them and stick them on the walls. I think he's setting art in Canada back about 100 years.
Oh, great. Can I address that?
He's, no, I mean, really, he might be a competent illustrator, but that's just it, you know.
That's all he is. He just draws pictures.
Could I
Please.
Okay.
And it's not art. I mean, it's illustration, but it's not art.
Okay.
I'll hang up now.
Thank
Okay,
you very
can
much.
I-
You
can
hang
I,
up and we'll answer this one.
Okay, right. There's this term illustrator. I think you could define an illustration as something where some outside body gives the reason for the artist to do the painting. There are a lot of artists who do illustrations, but if the inspiration comes from inside the artist, such as in Degas or Van Gogh or whatever, then it's, I don't know what is considered fine art. If it's come from outside, I think it's an illustration, like an assignment. Well, if that's the definition, then what is the Sistine Chapel ceiling? The Pope asked Michelangelo to illustrate the Bible on the Sistine Chapel ceiling. And I think that Picasso's Guernica is an illustration of a historic event. There's all kinds of things through history, and I don't know why people try to run down illustrations. I've never been an illustrator. I don't illustrate books. I always just do paintings of subjects that I love, which is what everybody else does.
So that people can understand what that woman was after, David Burnett, the former curator of contemporary Canadian art, said that your work is descriptive painting that doesn't challenge the mind. And Harold Town says, Alex Colville, oh, he's been on this program, says Bateman's stuff is less interesting than photographs taken by a good photographer. But surely the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Well, I think that the Alex Colville comment could apply to almost every artist that I can think of, you know, including Colville or Pratt or myself or Wyeth or Picasso. Their paintings, you know, a good photographer's work can be more interesting than any
They
painting.
would seem to me from this hostile review in the Maclean's to be jealous because you issue signed and numbered reproductions of your paintings, referring to them as prints and allowing dealers to sell them for hundreds of dollars each. Were you the first to use this technique?
No, it's been going on for a while. Now, there are, probably this lady that called in earlier is a printmaker, and they're an original printmaker. And I just would kind of like to explain to the audience that there are two kinds of prints. There's reproduction prints, and there are original prints. Now, the traditional print is, of course, the original print, like a wood block or a copper engraving or something like that. And the wood block or the piece of copper is thrown away, and each print is the original. Now, mine, as everyone knows who buys my reproduction prints, everyone knows they're reproductions of an original painting. And I sign and number mine so I can have quality control. And by the way, I have nothing whatever to do with the price of them, or the marketing, or the selling of them. And
Except that you get some of the money.
I get a small royalty, but the prices go up because of the market system that our country happens to be in.
Fair enough. I think we can do a few more calls with Robert Bateman after the break. Robert Bateman, who's just been insulted by that woman who says he's not an artist, he's an illustrator.
That's not an insult.
Well,
There are great illustrators in the world. N.C. Wyeth. I maintain Da Vinci and Michelangelo were both illustrators, too.
Next year, the Smithsonian Institute will mount a major 3-month show of your work. Go ahead to Bateman.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Bateman. Can you tell me if you're familiar with the works of Peter Scott? And also, can you also tell me if he's still in the land of the living?
Yes, as we mentioned earlier, Sir Peter is in his 70s. He's hale and hearty. He did have a heart attack, but he's in the land of the living now. He's still painting. He's still fundraising for World Wildlife Fund. I saw him just a few months ago, and in fact, he came to I had an opening in London in May, and Sir Peter Scott and Attenborough both came to the opening. I was really honored.
Dickie.
Yes, that's
My
right.
friend Dickie.
That's right.
We had him on the air once. Every day I've had on the
And
air.
a painter.
A wonderful painter.
Yes,
Even
certainly.
I
He still
remember
lives in
Peter
England.
Scott. Sorry, old boy, carry on.
Does he still live in England?
He still lives at Slimbridge. Still lives in the same house overlooking his duck pond there.
Fine, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead from Rupert.
Yes. How are you doing?
No bad.
Anyways, you got to eat your meat before you have your pudding.
Right.
Anyways, I'd like to say something about the Queen Charlottes. There is the loon out there, and it's a redneck loon. It's the rarest thing you'll ever see.
Red-throated
One
one,
of a
right.
kind.
Right.
And that's the only one.
Never mind, I saw two.
And anyways,
Just a minute. I saw 2 pileated woodpeckers in Salt Spring yesterday. I'm glad they're back.
the heck crap. Anyways, it's all interrelated.
Are you talking about Bateman?
Don't cut me out yet.
I will cut you out. Say something.
Okay, what I'm saying is that they live around the same islands that they want to cut the trees down.
Away with you. Saboteur. We're not go into that. We'll go into it in detail.
He's on my side.
I'm on your side too.
Okay,
Any
okay,
sane
great.
person is on our side. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Mr. Bateman, I talked to you about the tropical birds, and I wanted to call back in response to that horrible woman. She obviously does not appreciate wildlife or animals and sounds very much to be a snob. Thank you.
Well, could I just say something about that? I'm sure I probably like her. She's probably an artist, as I said, or a printmaker, and I'm sure I would like her work. But there has been something about wildlife art ever since the Middle Ages. I don't know whether it's the Christian era or what. The only way you can show wildlife is hanging up with a bunch of grapes by the feet or at the end of a spear or something like that. It seems the Western art establishment does not accept anything with wildlife in it as art.
Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Webster and Mr. Bateman.
All right.
I wanted to talk to Mr. Bateman about that lady just called up and said he wasn't a painter. He was an illustrator. I don't believe that. And also, I want to ask Mr. Bateman: has he ever been up to northern BC, up around Princess Royal Island, where they have the Commodity bear, every kind of loon, eagle, paragons, you name it. in the area, and all clean water, no pollution. And I was just wondering, you know, all these birds dying in Ontario, in the lakes in Ontario, if they could be removed from there and brought up to a clean area.
Okay, is that a question that's reasonable?
No, I don't think they could be removed because probably the carrying capacity of the area he's speaking of is already has a maximum
Fully
number.
established, yes. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Mr. Bateman. The gift that you have to make things look so real, I was wondering, can that be learned?
I don't know. I know there are hundreds of artists out there trying to paint the wilderness and wild areas and wildlife in realistic ways. And I've taught a lot of them. I've counseled quite a number of them. Some seem to either have it or don't have it. The main thing is to not get all hung up in detail in painting every feather and try to concentrate on the form and the light and the shade and the air and the space.
Good advice. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Webster. Good morning, Mr. Bateman. We admire your paintings.
Thank you.
And one painting especially, we very much like the Arctic wolf.
Yes?
Would like to buy the print and don't know how to get hold of it.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I have nothing whatever to do with the selling even of my originals, let alone the prints. I can't keep track of it. I don't know the prices or anything. Unfortunately, it's probably on the secondary market. People buy them for investments.
Oh, yeah.
And then the prices go way up, and it's...
I mean, the prices of your prints go up.
Yeah, they buy these prints as investment and speculate on them and turn around, and I have no control over it, and I hope everybody realizes I have no part of it.
But you do know the price of this.
It's $50. That's one number I can remember.
11:30 to 12:30 today, Mr. Bateman will be autographing at Duthie's on Robson Street. And 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, he'll be autographing at the Bay downtown. Thanks very much, Bob. I'm much obliged. Enjoyed it. I hope we all win in the Charlottes and that there is room for both, because without jobs, there'll be nobody eating enough to go to the Charlottes to see the country.
Righto.
Thanks, Bob. See you in
Great.
Salt Spring.
Thank you very much.
I'll be back with my two friends from the War Amputations of Canada after the break.